What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another video. Now, the topic of this video is the Galaxy S20 Ultra. It's an incredible phone. I've been using it for close to 2 weeks now. I have some opinions that I want to share, so we're gonna go ahead and get started. Now, you're probably wondering, where is the Galaxy S20 Ultra? You're not holding it. The camera footage that you're seeing right now is a 4K sample from the Galaxy S20 Ultra. So we wanted to shoot the intro on that phone, switch back to our 4K camera so you can see the difference between what comes on this phone and what is on a professional quality 4K camera. All right, so now we are back on our 4K camera. As you guys can see, I'm holding the Galaxy S20 Ultra now. Talk about a preface of things to come. So yeah, over the past week and a half, I've been using this phone and it's been incredibly impressive. Honestly, when it comes to Android devices, the biggest compliment I can possibly give a phone is the phone has excited me enough to a point where I'm not trying to switch back to my Pixel 4 XL or even my OnePlus 7T Pro McLaren edition. To be completely honest with you guys, the Galaxy S20 Ultra has gotten me excited for a Galaxy phone in ways that no other phones, S-line or Note line, have previously done. And I feel like it's because with this particular model, the Ultra, Samsung said, screw it. Instead of making all the phones in this line appeal to the masses, let's make one that just absolutely tries to push every single boundary possible. And I could not be happier with the result. The display is the largest we've ever seen on any Galaxy S line of smartphone. It comes in at 6.9 inches, and yes, that display is just as big in the hand as it seems to be on paper. But Samsung didn't stop there. It's an incredibly bright, vibrant, punchy display that tops out at 3200 by 1440. So yeah, that's WQHD+. It's just incredible. I mean, Samsung has already been known for making some of the best displays, but to continue to make displays that are essentially visually indistinguishable from perfect is nothing short of phenomenal. There is still a hole punch. It's now been moved to the middle, and it's now what seems to be even smaller than what you'd find on the Galaxy Note 10 Plus, and that was already very little of a distraction. So no notches, just one small hole punch. But Samsung didn't stop there. They made the ultrasonic fingerprint display faster than it was before. I'm not gonna say more accurate because I already thought it was accurate, but I just thought it was slow. They've improved the response rate of that fingerprint sensor, both when the display is turned off and when the display is turned on. And it's just as fast as the one on my OnePlus 7T Pro, which is really saying something. Now, in terms of refresh rate, Samsung didn't go with 90 Hertz. They went with 120 Hertz, which is incredible. And in terms of touch response rate, they doubled it from the S10 to 240 Hertz. So what do those refresh rates mean for you? It means that when you combine that screen technology with the silicone that you'll find underneath the S20, it flies. You will never ever feel like this phone is stuttering, hiccuping, lagging, none whatsoever. It's an absolute joy to use every single day. One thing to keep in mind about that 120 Hertz refresh rate, if you want to turn that on, the phone will automatically bump its display resolution down to 2400 by 1080, so full HD+. To be completely honest with you guys, you're not going to be able to tell the difference. The display itself is still fantastic, even at full HD quality. And from what I'm hearing, Samsung's working on a software update that will allow you to utilize both the high refresh rate and the WQHD+ resolution. And if they pull that off, that's even better. The spec sheet is also unlike anything else we've seen before on a Galaxy S line of smartphone. And when you combine that with One UI 2.1, you get an incredible experience. So I will be the first to admit that I've never been the biggest fan of Samsung's version of Android, but One UI 2.1 is slowly starting to grow on me. My biggest gripe with anything Samsung has done in terms of software is, one, it seems too bloated and too far away from a stock Android experience like what you'd find on a Pixel, and two, the software updates themselves are lacking. Well, on March 3rd, when we unboxed this phone, I had a software update ready for me on my S20 Ultra for the March security patch of 2020 for the latest version of Android 10. So it seems like Samsung has at least stepped up in that department. Now, in terms of software design as a whole, like I said, One UI is definitely growing on me. Still not my favorite third-party Android experience, probably not even past Oxygen OS, but I gotta say, Samsung has made some serious progress in terms of how fluid their software is, how well the design actually looks. It essentially looks like it belongs on a premium smartphone like this. And when it comes to doing things like playing video games on my phone, like NBA 2K20, using the built-in native video editor, cutting down video, piecing together videos, combining multiple videos together, GPS navigation, YouTube, calls, text, browsing, multitasking, the phone can absolutely handle it all without any particular issue. So I think that's a real testament to, one, the hardware that's found on the device, and two, the fact that Samsung is definitely improving on their software experience. In fact, one of my favorite features in One UI 2.1 is called application pinning. So yeah, these phones, in whichever storage configuration you get them, come with a ridiculous amount of RAM. It's either 12 gigs or 16 gigs, which both of them are definitely overkill. But Samsung allows you to utilize that RAM in a slightly cooler way. So if there are applications that you launch often or that you don't want to have essentially any lag time when starting, for me, those apps are typically, the Google News app, Gmail, YouTube, things like that. Samsung will allow you to pin those apps into the phone's RAM, so essentially that phone will always keep those apps open and ready to launch. It's honestly not the biggest feature. Like, it's not going to make a massive difference because either way, the phone doesn't have issues loading up applications, but when you actually think about it in everyday use, it can actually be pretty cool. And whenever you go through to clear apps out of memory, those specific apps that you have pinned will not be cleared from the memory, so they'll always be ready to launch and basically almost be refreshed anytime you need them. Now, someone like myself, we make and upload YouTube videos here in the studio, so naturally, I like to watch a lot of YouTube videos. So if you're someone like me and you like to spend a lot of time on your phone consuming media, just know that this phone is also incredibly capable in that department as well. So if you like to stream movies or TV shows on Netflix, the S20 line is HDR10 certified through Netflix. It essentially means that you're going to get incredible picture quality on your mobile device even while streaming. YouTube videos are obviously phenomenal, and the overall media consumption experience on this phone is great. It's got excellent loud speakers. Not dual front firing, one is front firing, one is bottom firing, but they are slightly tuned by Dolby Atmos, so they do get very, very loud, and they also don't get distorted, even at max volume, so that's awesome. And if you're going to spend hours a day watching videos or streaming on your device, you probably need a battery that lasts you all day, and the S20 Ultra delivers in that department as well. It comes rocking a 5,000 milliamp hour battery, and I had absolutely zero battery issues throughout my testing period with this device. If there's one accessory I can recommend, it would be the 25 watt fast charger that Samsung has for sale. If you pre-ordered the phone, or if you were fortunate enough to receive some sort of credit that you could use towards accessories when buying this phone, I would highly recommend that charger. It charges the phone up super quick. I mean, if you're the type of person where after work, maybe you got to shower, get ready because you want to go out for a night, go ahead and throw the phone on charge. You'll be surprised how much charge it'll get just by sitting there for 10 or 15 minutes on a 25 watt charger. Now, one of my other favorite features has also come back, and that's wireless reverse power share. So you're able to wirelessly charge other devices using this device. And I happen to get the Galaxy Buds Plus for free, and I can't tell you how cool it is to be able to wirelessly charge those headphones on my Galaxy S20 Ultra. It's not the most convenient by any means, and it's not something that you're going to use every day. Honestly, it's more of a party trick, more so than anything, just to show off to someone or make them laugh or something. But needless to say, it's still a pretty cool feature to have. And now we're gonna get to what's probably going to be the longest portion of this review, and for good reason. It's the camera setup on the S20 Ultra. So I'm sure you guys have seen it. The camera module in the back of the phone is absolutely massive, but I have to say, it's housing a fantastic camera system. Now, before we get to the back, let's talk about the front-facing selfie camera. There is only one this time around. It's in the middle of the display, relatively small, but big sensor overall, coming in at 40 megapixels with an f2.2 aperture. Honestly, I don't take enough selfies on any of the phones that I use, to be honest with you, so I'm not the best person to listen to whenever it comes to the overall selfie camera. I have taken a couple of 1080p videos using the front-facing camera for a supplement company that I'm partnered with. And I gotta say, the video quality on those was actually pretty awesome. Now, those videos were taken outdoors in very good sunlight and very nice visibility, so any modern day smartphone probably could have produced a really solid video with whatever lens they were using. But either way, I was still pretty impressed with the overall video quality from those that I took on this phone. Now, I will say Samsung is still kind of doing the typical Samsung thing, and they are over smoothing faces, even with the beauty mode turned off. So if you're someone who doesn't really like your selfies too messed with right there in the camera system, you may not be too happy with it. But overall, for a front-facing camera and for someone like me who doesn't use it that much, it's still pretty nice. Now let's flip the phone to the back and talk about the ridiculous camera setup on the back. So yes, there are 4 lenses that are mounted onto a ridiculous camera bump. Now, if the camera system wasn't really good, then I would say a camera bump this size is absolutely ridiculous. But if Samsung really needed a camera bump this size to house these lenses, I can't blame them, especially whenever you start looking at the photos and videos that this thing can produce. But for now, let's run through the actual lenses themselves. Like I said, there are 4 of them, starting with a 12 megapixel ultra wide angle lens, a 108 megapixel wide angle lens, a 48 megapixel telephoto lens, and a 4th depth vision lens. Now, the camera system itself is capable of 10 times optical zoom and 100 times hybrid zoom that Samsung is calling space zoom. Now, my overall experience with this camera system has actually been really, really good. Now, I want to say that you absolutely do not need something like a 108 megapixel camera in order to create a good camera system. If you look at a phone like the Pixel 4 or the Pixel 4 XL, they produce class-leading still photography with just a solid 12 megapixel camera setup and really, really strong image processing and computational photography. But Samsung went ahead and used this camera system on the S20 Ultra, so we're going to talk about it. Now, yeah, 108 megapixels sounds super awesome, but to be completely honest with you guys, the majority of the time, you're probably going to be using or taking photos in a standard 12 megapixel format. So 108 sounds super cool, but Samsung utilizes what's called pixel binning, and they'll essentially group 9 pixels into one giant super pixel. So that 108 will get scaled down to 12 whenever you're going to take the photos. Now, you can actually take photos in the full 108 megapixel mode, but just know that if you're taking a photo that has a lot of detail, that has a lot of colors, that has a lot that the camera itself has to capture, the size, the actual file size of that photo will be a lot larger. Now, for reference, we're going to show you guys some photos that were taken on the standard 12 megapixel and also the 108 megapixel mode. And a lot of times you're going to notice they look exactly the same whenever you're taking them at face value. The biggest difference is the 108 megapixel shot is able to capture a lot more detail whenever you zoom in. Now, we're going to do our best to try and show you detail by zooming in, but just know that when we upload videos or photos to YouTube, they'll get condensed down. So even if we do zoom in, you guys probably aren't going to see the best possible quality. But just know that that 108 megapixel sensor produces a lot of detail in an image, and it's actually really, really awesome. Now, in terms of that overall file size I was talking to you guys about, most photos that you'll take on that 12 megapixel setup are going to be about 3.5, maybe 4.5, 5 megs max. If you're taking a really detailed and colorful and vibrant photo at 108 megapixels, you're probably looking at anywhere like 25 to 30 megs. For one photo, that's a lot. But like I said, if you're the kind of person who likes to capture a lot of detail, especially when you zoom in, the 108 megapixel mode will definitely be for you. Now, in terms of the overall quality, the images are typical Samsung. They're slightly oversaturated in terms of colors. They're a little more vibrant than they really should be. They're not necessarily what your eye picks up, but the phone still produces a beautiful photo, and you're gonna enjoy taking photos on this phone. I know I have, and for me, camera photography is not even that big of a thing in terms of what I really want out of a smartphone. But when you have a system like this, you're gonna wanna take photos and you're gonna wanna test that 108 megapixel mode just to see the quality of images that you can get and also the amount of detail that this camera can capture. Now there's one other photo that I wanted to point out to you guys. We're gonna pop it up right now. And it's me standing relatively far away in about a fountainy area. I was walking the dogs one evening and I saw some geese standing near a pond. So I decided to take just a standard photo. There was no zoom on this photo, and I believe it was it's gotta be either the 12 or the 108 megapixel format. I believe it was the 108. But I took the photo from a standstill, and I really wanted to test those zoom capabilities on those geese. So the next photo that you're about to see is me standing in the same exact spot, zooming in to about 12 to 15 times and snapping a photo of the geese. And I gotta say, that was a moment when this camera setup truly amazed me. I feel like on a lot of other smartphones, like a Pixel 4 XL, like an iPhone 11, like a OnePlus 7T Pro, you're probably not going to be able to pull off that shot, still retain at least that much detail, and be able to zoom that far in while still being relatively confident in your camera system. So I gotta say, from the perspective of the amount of features that this camera system brings to the table, the versatility it has, the overall performance it has in low light, which has also become a lot more reliable, it's just a great camera system overall. Now in terms of video, it's also a relatively impressive setup. The phone can take video in 1080p at 60 frames, 4K at 60 frames, but the only thing Samsung wanted to talk about at their event was its 8K capabilities. And yeah, you can shoot video on this phone in 8K, but it's at 24 frames per second. So yes, the 8K video quality is pretty impressive. I'm not sure how many people out there have 8K TVs or 8K monitors or anything that can really display a true 8K video in its full resolution and format. But either way, if you wanted to take an 8K video, you have that option. I did take a 30-second 8K video of a fountain, and I gotta say, I was truly impressed by the video quality, but I probably would have been just as impressed if I decided to record that in 4K at 60 frames. In fact, as you guys saw, the intro to this video was shot in 4K 60 frames. So chances are, if you buy this phone, you're probably going to be doing a lot of your video recording in 4K at 60 frames per second. I just trust something like 60 frames per second a little bit more than 24. If you must record in 8K 24, I would recommend a stabilizer of some kind because the video, especially through the viewfinder, will start to look just a little choppy. So when I took the 8K video of that fountain, I was able to just stabilize the camera on a piece of wood to make sure that I'm not moving around a lot, just to produce better quality video. Now, holy crap, in terms of file size, 8K is ridiculous. That 30-second 8K video was roughly 300 megabytes worth of storage, which is a lot. So thank goodness Samsung allows you to expand the storage on this phone while also offering a 512 gigabyte option. So yes, 8K video is here. It's in 24 frames per second. You should probably stick to 4K because it's still just as impressive and it's still just as good. And file size for 8K video is absolutely ridiculous. Now, while it is a great camera system, it's definitely not without its faults. And there are a couple things that I wanted to point out to you, just something for you to keep in mind if you are going to buy the S20 Ultra. One, the camera system struggles with autofocus. I find that it has issues whenever you move a subject in front of the lens. It has a slight delay in terms of how well it can, one, focus on that subject, but also keep that subject in focus after it decides to switch over its focus. And two, it blurs out parts of subjects that are really close to the camera system. And I think both of these issues stem from the fact that Samsung ditched their dual aperture setup on this camera system in favor of just a single aperture lens in combination with that massive 108 megapixel sensor. So essentially speaking, when you have a single aperture lens and you combine it with something like a 108 megapixel sensor, the smartphone itself can do a really solid job of establishing a subject, but also establishing a depth of field, that bokeh effect that you want whenever you do things like portrait mode on other smartphones. But where the phone struggles is keeping parts of that close subject in focus after you take the image. So when you combine the single aperture lens that this camera comes with that massive 108 megapixel camera, you'll find that the window to get a subject in focus while also keeping that subject in focus is really, really small. So that's just something to keep in mind whenever you're using this phone. But hopefully Samsung can fix those camera issues. I'm fairly certain they're well aware of it, but I'm kind of hoping that it's more software related instead of hardware related, because if it is software, at least they can release a patch and fix it. But on that one, time will tell, so we will see. Now let's talk about the biggest issue that would prevent a lot of people from going out and buying an incredible smartphone like the S20 Ultra, and that's the price. So my particular model, the one that comes with 12 gigs of RAM and 128 gigs of storage, starts at $1399, and that's pre-tax. If you want to get it spec'd out with 16 gigs of RAM and 512 gigs of storage, it's $1,599. Honestly, at that price, it would be hard to justify any kind of smartphone, let alone the Galaxy S20 Ultra. But I will say this, it is an absolutely incredible phone. I'm not gonna go out on a limb and say it's the best Android phone of 2020, but let me tell you, it's put all the other Android manufacturers on notice that they have a very, very high bar to compete with, especially in the ultra premium smartphone market. The Galaxy S20 is the epitome of what a company like Samsung has to offer in 2020, and it's really hard to find any fault with the phone outside of the fact that it'll set you back a whole bunch of money just to own one. But with that being said, that concludes our review over the Galaxy S20 Ultra. Let me know what you guys think about the phone down in the comment section below. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. Please be sure to like and subscribe. And also, while you're down there, let me know if you want to see a review over the standard Galaxy S20 or the Galaxy S20 Plus. It's something we've kind of been contemplating here in the studio, and if we see that a lot of you are interested in seeing that review, we'll go out and buy one and make a review over it for you guys, okay? So yeah, get at me in the comment section, like and subscribe, share this video with your friends, and as always, thanks again for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.